Well, good evening, everyone. This is JBoy1878, and today we're going to be looking at a story about gangs, county lines forcing missing Southeast London kids to sell drugs and live in squalor 200 miles away from home. Let's have a look. Okay, so there's two of the gang members who were using kids to do the dirty business for them. Here we go. A drugs gang. Okay, a drugs gang who groom missing children from South London to live in squalor and sell drugs 200 miles away from home. For a have been jailed for a total of 19 years. Three men and a woman pleaded guilty to charges on day three of the trial, May the 13th, at Kingston Crown Court, after officers from the Met's operation of Archie, using CCTV, automatic number plate recognition, and communication data, proved their criminality. And this is Junior Monacana, who was arrested in London after the police raided the home in Hull. PC Hardwick explained how the fast-paced operation began on October the 13th, 2022, when police were referred a 15-year-old missing boy from Lewisham. Using mobile phone data, they located the teenager over 200 miles away in Hull and raced up to East Yorkshire City the next day. One bed between four people in a derelict drugs house. In an abandoned address taken over for drug preparation, they found the missing boy along with another missing 16-year-old with their masters Enrico Cadima, 20, and Michael Dos Santos, who was 18 at the time. Both men were arrested despite Dos Santos fleeing through a window in the garden. Pete Hardwick's team also found clear evidence of the address being used for, for storage, preparation, supply of drugs. Police also recovered a small amount of drugs in the property with 150 pounds worth of crack and heroin on the 15-year-old. But rather than cocooning where gangs take over a building used by drug addicts, PC Hardwick explained the property was just derelict. He said it was one of the worst addresses I've ever been in terms of stash houses. Definitely one of the worst we've seen. At least in Cocoon address, there is an adult there, though they wouldn't have a parental responsibility or necessarily the means to be a parental or no ability to look after the kid, but often at least there is running water and electricity. So these kids were being held in like squalor. And it says later on that there was no water, running water, there was no food in the place. Disgusting. Police found one bed between the four of them, a sleeping bag on the floor and no furniture. Not the sort of place a 15-year-old would want to be, even if at the time maybe he thought it was right. He added, PC Hardwick said that the unwashed teenagers looked relieved to see officers burst through the metal door. There was no fridge or food, and checks on the communication records showed the kids had been directed on 24/7 drug deals throughout the night. And that's the other person arrested, Sabrina Ramsey, Junior Monarca's girlfriend, admitted driving the children to Hull. As PC Hardwick's team rescued the boys in Hull, another team of officers in London moved in on 22-year-old John Junior Monacana, who was arrested while driving on the motorway. Police found a deal line used to send 175 send messages to 175 buyers a day on him, along with other communications, which was used as evidence to bring charges against the gang. Kadima and Dos Santos were brought to to be interviewed along with Maracana, and were then charged with drugs and modern day slavery offences. With the investigation into the post charge stage, PC Hardwick and his colleagues carried on building the case for the prosecution as they hoped to prove their suspects were guilty of arranging or facilitating the travel of another with the attempt with with a view to exploit them. So the police are leading this line. You've got to look at this. It's, the way they're looking at these crimes now is, instead of it being a sex crime, it's drug dealing crime, where they exploit young people with dreams, better wish, better more cash. PC Hart revealed that the longest he's seen ongoing often missing youngsters will return at the weekend and tell their families and police they have just been with friends and then refuse to speak, or just refuse to speak outright. It makes it hard for police to intervene, which is why the operation moved so quickly once they were able to track the 15-year-old and locate him at the scene of the crime. The safeguarding first approach, which was proved effective at bringing tougher sentences for the modern day slavery offences, means children are not called to give evidence in court. Rather than criminalising young children, Pissarro went as far as comparing the methods used by drug gangs to those used by, you can see that word. Mm. Part of the reason we go victimless prosecution is because there is an element of grooming. Some of these children think they either need to, have to, or want to. He said, I often think if you use the analogy of sex crime, no one would think it's acceptable for a 22-year-old used a 15-year-old girl for sex. Even if the 15-year-old girl said it was love, you would say you can't make that informed decision. You're too young. You're being groomed. The same thing is happening here, but instead of sex, it's drug dealing. I'm in contact with the 15-year-old kid's mum, who I think is fairly grateful that we are essentially telling both these kids' parents that their kids are being trafficked. I'm not a parent myself, but it must be quite shocking. In their battle with county lines, police are trying to divert children who are generally aged between 15 and 16 away from criminality by working with charities MOPAC, Funded Rescue and Response, and Catch 22. One of the things we are really trying to do last year and this year is thinking about how do we better protect and prevent children being dragged in, Mr. DCI Mitchell said. Police have also shifted tactics to work closely on high-risk missing persons cases in order to bring tougher modern slavery charges against the men of violence who run county lines. Local BCUs or missing persons team can alert a task force, allowing them to put specialist resources into finding them fast. It's a really risky, dangerous thing that's happened to them, so it's high risk case for us. That's really important. So we race up to rescue them, Mr. DCI Mitchell said, rather than pursuing very difficult cases of potential victims of modern slavery. Intervening in the middle of a drug supply allows police to gather evidence that has resulted in modern day slavery charges in half of Morocco's rescue operations. It's a tactic we are trying to do more of, DCI Mitchell said. Most of the children encountered by the task force don't consider themselves victims, but hard up children are often recruited through social media, which glorifies fast cash, while others are threatened with violence and employees to trap them into debt bondage. Sometimes we've heard of stories where they stage robberies, so the gang would rob the child themselves, then say, "You've lost them drugs. You owe us a debt. You ha- you ha- you have to carry on working to pay off that debt." Now the child's stuck for 3 or 4 days in this address, thinking they can't leave until they've paid off the debt. It's total exploitation. That's no, there's nowhere to get a shower or anything. It's quite common to see teenagers or children involved in this, not able to wash or things we take for granted every day. It's all part of the case for saying it's exploitation. No one would reasonably live like that. They are being criminally exploited, and I think that's it, an absolute priority for us to try and prevent it. It's a key part of county lines, which is a business model. You can make more money and keep yourself free from the worst elements of risk if you're getting a young person to be at the forefront for you. See, it's horrendous, isn't it, when you think about it? These kids exploited, they're trying to make you think they'll make a quick buck, and then they're going somewhere and they're treated like absolute crap and dirt, and then they probably rob themselves, scared, blindness. Oh, well, you've got to do this for us. You've got to do that. You owe us the money. You lost that. You lost our drug supply. And good on the police for trying new things, trying to break the back of the cowards who are higher up the ranks. Anyway, just want to say thank you for listening, like and share, and good night from J Boy 1878. Till next time.